Hey guys. So this is the second time that I am shooting this video because the first one was like 40 minutes long and it's not necessary. So I have my Buddha candle lit behind me to try to, remind myself to chill the fuck out. Because my subject matter today is something that I am very passionate about, and that is books. My letter B for the 2018 YouTube Pagan Challenge is books. I'm a pretty basic bitch here, but books are, to me, they are portals between worlds. They are portals into human souls. They are portals into the workings of another human being's mind. They are portals into a person's form of expression, the way that they express themselves and the way that they view themselves. Books can teach us, they can inspire us, they can really provide us a home very much in the way that an altar does, or, a designated sacred space. And I think that that's a huge part of the reason why so many pagans and witches in particular love books. I know that's why I love books. So I am very into stories. I do write, I do journal, I do brainstorm ideas. I'm sorry guys, my nose is really itchy. We have like 0 humidity in the air right now because it's been like -30 all week. So my skin's very dry. But so I have approximately like 300 books, like just novels, stories. And then approximately another like 60 spiritual path specific, religion specific, research specific books. And then I have an entire shelf of personal journals and books that I work in because I love books. So I just wanted to share with you a few of my favorite books. First is my favorite story, and that is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And this is actually a very special copy because it's an original version it's a copy of the original version that she wrote back in 1818. So it's much darker than the version that you would read in, say, a class, like in high school or even in college. I got to reread this book for a course in college that was religion in literature, or literature and religion. One of the two. But it was an assigned book for us to read, and I was so excited because it's my favorite novel, and I was able to really, really get into the discussions. And I know my teacher in that class was just floored by how deeply I delve into this story when I read it, because it's very dark, and it's very much a creation versus creator story, where, when I read it, I am reminded of my own atheistic tendencies, which, are constantly proven false because I do work with deities, I work with spirit. But I also believe that the day that you quit questioning those higher energies is the day that you lose yourself. You lose your free will and your sense of expression, and a great chunk of your creativity. I think a lot of that beautiful thing that makes up a person comes from questioning, which can stem from stories like this one. So if you haven't read it, I recommend it. So that was my favorite story. And I actually first read that book when I was 14, so it's been about 13 years. And I've reread it every couple of years. I love it. I love it. So my favorite, specifically spiritual book, and it's not actually a spiritual book. It's not a paganism book or shamanism or witchcraft or anything like that. And it's one that I just recently discovered. I want to say it was about 6 months ago. And I actually haven't finished it yet because it has such a profound impact on me that I can only read, 4 or 5 pages at a time before I get overwhelmed with emotion and this desire to get to work. It gets to the point where I can't just sit and read the book. I actually have to get out and take part in what it's preaching, which is why I haven't actually finished it yet. And that is The Music Lesson by Victor L. Wooten. And I had no idea who he was before I picked up this book, but let me tell you how I came across this book. Okay, so it was, I believe I had just posted my 6-month progress video here on YouTube with my violin. And after that, I didn't practice for a couple of weeks. I put my violin up because I was feeling very self-conscious and self-doubting and just feeling like I could not do this, nor did I deserve to do this. I did not, at that point, I felt like there was no way that I could really incorporate music, of all things, and make it a spiritual practice. So, I believe this is actually when Kokopelli came to me, by the way, was actually through this book. But I had the sudden urge to go to the bookstore and just walk around. Because as, anybody that loves books can tell you, just walking around a bookstore, smelling new books, flipping through them, seeing what's new, looking through old favorites that's, in a different print from what you have at home. It's therapeutic. God, is it therapeutic. So I had the urge to go up to the bookstore and just walk around. I didn't have anything in mind that I wanted to buy, that I wanted to look at. Just walk around and see what they had, even though I've been there a million times before. It still feels like therapy. So, I go to, excuse me, my throat's really dry. This weather's killing me, guys. But I go to my favorite section, which is science fiction, to look at Doctor Who novels, because I collect those like crazy. So every time I go to the bookstore, that's the first place that I go, is science fiction, to see if they've got any new Doctor Who books. And this guy right here was sitting in the wrong section. This belongs in the music section. Was sitting on the end of the shelf, all by itself, face out, at eye level. So it was the first thing that I saw when I walked around the corner of that bookshelf. And there was just something about it. I didn't actually flip through it and read any passages. I stared at this image and held it in my hand, held the book in my hands. And there was a sudden warmth that just spread everywhere. The same warmth that I felt the first time that I held a violin. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional just thinking about it. So I brought this book home and I started reading it. And almost immediately, I noticed all of these different feels that I was getting. So, like I said, I can't read more than 4 or 5 pages at a time because I just get too overwhelmed with emotion and the desire to get my ass up and put what is in this book into practice. I actually did something that is usually a no-no for me, and I pulled out a highlighter and started highlighting stuff in this book. And there are pages that I only have 1 or 2 things highlighted. And then there are pages where, let me see if I can find one, where I have pretty much the whole page highlighted. I'm not finding, well, there's a big passage that I did. But the thing with this book is, if you are a musician or you do incorporate music into your everyday life, actually having a more spiritual understanding of that music can help you incorporate not only how you feel spiritually about things, but actually incorporating music into your daily life as a spiritual practice. That's what this book basically entails. And Victor L. Wooten, this is his story of a teacher that basically showed up in his house. Like, no idea how the guy got in. He was not invited. Wooten had never met him before. You know, just this random teacher that showed up in his life when he needed him to teach him not how to play his instrument, but how to play music. And just to kind of give you a overview of really what this book says, one of the things that his teacher tells him, and it stuck with him, but it also has stuck with me after having read it. A child playing air guitar plays no wrong notes. In other words, when you play music or you sing, you know, any kind of music, you play or you sing, anytime that you participate in music with joy, you can't fuck it up. Even if you hit a wrong note, you know, it's still musical. You're still playing an active part in creating this high vibration or low vibration or healing energy or, you know, uplifting, inspirational energies. You're still taking part in it, and that's never wrong when you come at it from a place of joy and love, the way a child plays an air guitar. So this is my top spiritual book. I have several books on, you know, witchcraft and paganism, several on shamanism. I have animal books, I have crystal books, I have herb books. You know, I have the general library, rune books, tarot books, just the general pagan library there. And this is my most used, most important and influential. It's the book that I keep coming back to, even though I haven't finished it yet. I keep coming back to it because it's just such a vital part of my path at this point. So if you haven't read it, I recommend it very much. I actually gifted this to my violin teacher for, Yule and Christmas last month, and he was super excited because I had told him about it, and he thought it sounded pretty interesting because he actually approaches music from a very scientific perspective, and I approach it from a very spiritual perspective. So we have very interesting conversations. But so of course I have to display some of my personal spiritual books that I work in. And I'm only going to show you 4 out of the entire shelf that I have. Like, I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 13, I want to say 14 books that I work in. I'm only going to show you 4. It's the main 4 that I actually work in. So, first is this one, and this is actually a creative writing journal. I'm not going to open it. When I actually have it finished, I might do a flip through if you guys really want to see it. Otherwise, this is the most personal journal besides my Book of Mirrors that I have. Nobody has seen what is in this book except for me. Well, I don't want to say, I guess I can't say that. There's a few things that are in here that I've shared with very close friends. Basically, shadow type writings. Writings that I've done during a depressive episode or during an anxiety-fueled episode that I share because I don't have any other words to say, help me get through this, other than to share that piece of writing that bears my soul. But I want to say about 90 to 95% of what's in here, nobody has seen but me. Even the inside covers, nobody but me has seen them. And I don't sit down and just write in this because I have trouble writing stream of consciousness by hand. My hand doesn't like to keep up with my brain so well. So I end up losing my train of thought after a couple of sentences or halfway through the first sentence. So I usually type it out and edit it on the computer, and I will print myself a copy that I put in my writing binder that has all of my like educational notes and stuff like that in it. And then I will copy it in here with some kind of doodle or, whatever. That is just, it's personal for me because it's it's my words in my handwriting. And there is just something so magical to me about that. So this is one of my most used, most loved, and most important books that I work in. So next is actually my Book of Mirrors. And I work in this every single day. I have been trying to make it a habit to work in it every single day because it's good for me. It's healthy for me. And everything goes in this book, guys. Tarot readings that I do for myself, meditations, prayers. I rant in here. I write down dreams. When I do a painting or anything like that, I will rip it out and paste it in here and write out what I was feeling when I did it. Just basically anything that has any significance to me that I want to remember it goes in here. And I actually chose this journal because it is a mirrored image. And we have the moon, which is the only thing that is not mirrored. It's the only consistent thing. It's the only consistent aspect in this image is that divine feminine energy. It's the only thing that's consistent, and that it just spoke to me. On top of the fact that we have a woman riding a bear, which is, for me, a symbol of going within and reflection, and of course feminine power and protection. So I usually have a reason for choosing the things that I choose. Don't we all? So the next one is actually my second book of songs, which is this one. And this one I'm finding is becoming more like a grimoire, where I put personal stuff in here more so than information. And then the one that I showed you guys in a previous video, that one is becoming more of a book of shadows, that I basically just stick gobs and gobs and gobs of information in it that I want to remember. So this one I am trying very, very, very hard not to print anything. I am trying to do everything by hand. And so I'm giving myself permission to be messy with it. And as a perfectionist, it's been very difficult, but also very liberating. And so I find I've actually been working quite a bit in this book over the last couple of months. So the last one, which is, I'm not ashamed to say it, it is my favorite of my journals. And I feel like I have to share it. That is my violin journal. So I picked this journal because this brown is almost the exact same color as my violin. And I printed off images of these F-holes, and I like Mod Podged them on here. So the overall effect is a violin with pages. But basically I put every scrap of information that I can find on violin in here. The instrument, the history, the technique, famous violinists, you name it. If it has to do with violin, I put it in here, on top of journaling my experiences with it, and journaling important milestones. Like, I am so anxious to sit down and journal out what my first year, and actually I'm going to do it like a year and a day thing with the violin. I'm so anxious to sit down and journal that out, which I will be able to do in about 2.5 weeks. So for me, this is a very, I mean, it's personal, but this is my most spiritual, for me, my most spiritual journal. And I love it. So, like I said, guys, books are super, super important to me. I have a feeling they're actually important to most pagans and witches. So, being a basic bitch here, and my letter B for the 2018 YouTube Pagan Challenge is books. So, if you stuck around for the whole video, thank you so much for watching. And if I don't see you before, I will see you for the letter C. So, thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Merry meet, namaste, and blessed be.